Okay, today we're going to be talking about growth spurt in football. I am Steve Zaidnote. I'll be presenting, pro licensed coach and the owner of Soccer Tech. We run an internship where we develop coaches through practical learning, and this is part of one of our modules. So today, growth spurt and how it relates to football. The presentation is going to go through 6 different areas. What is a growth spurt? So 5 different areas. What brings on a growth spurt? What are the characteristics of a growth spurt? How it affects it, and how to deal with a growth spurt. So first of all, what is a growth spurt? Well, it takes place between the ages of 10 to 14 in girls and 12 to 16 in boys. It's defined as an occurrence of growing quickly and suddenly in a short period of time, and is caused by hormones that are the same ones that are responsible for sexual maturity. So how do you know what we are going through is a growth spurt? Well, a couple of telltale signs is the individual will have an increase in appetite. There is an increase in bone and muscle growth. In other words, you see them, as we say colloquially, shooting up. There is an increase in fat stored in the body. So often we'll see players or kids putting on a bit of puppy fat, we like to call it that. And there is a loss of coordination. That last one's quite important, as it has quite a number of effects on the football field. The coordination, really all that's happening is the body is used to your limbs, and your nervous system is used to your limbs being a certain length, and because they grow so quickly, the mind and nervous system takes a little bit of time to adjust to those new lengths, which can look a little bit uncomfortable and like a lack of coordination in the player. Often we call this giraffe syndrome in the areas I'm in. They look a little bit like giraffes. So yeah, that's the loss of coordination. It's important to understand that the loss of coordination is temporary. The body will adjust, and it's important for our football context that we understand this. Okay, the effects of it. There's a number of effects, how it affects the body and how it affects the person. There's going to be a temporary loss of ball mastery or ball control. That is because of the coordination deficit that we've discussed already. Increased risk of overuse injuries. So because the body is under so much tension and stress, it can lead to overuse injuries if we don't monitor it properly, if we don't monitor the spurt properly and adjust the loads. There is social distraction because of those hormones that have come through. A lot of social distraction, where suddenly the opposite sex looks a lot more appealing. Other activities in their life might take preference. Music, pop culture, these are all things we must be aware of. These are not negative things. They are just things that a coach needs to understand and navigate through. Bearing in mind that the net result of a coach should be to see a person fulfill his ultimate goals as a human being, and not necessarily for them to become professional footballers. So we must keep that in mind as well, that a complete human being is better than a professional footballer. The next one is increased risk of trauma injuries, and that's again due to the awkwardness that they have, the giraffe syndrome as we call it, and it creates a bit of clumsiness and can lead to more trauma injuries. Okay, what can coaches do? Well, the first thing is all coaches should be monitoring growth. As soon as a kid's hitting 11 or 12, there is no reason you shouldn't monitor the growth. It's a very simple thing to do. All you have to do is buy a cheap measuring tape, put it up against a wall, and measure the player's height every month and keep a record of it. As soon as you see a growth of more than 0.6 centimeters, of more than 6 centimeters, you know that he's in a growth spurt, a sudden growth. This has a much greater risk of injury, 1.6% greater risk of injury when they go into it. We need to reduce the load on these players and specifically monitor the load. We must understand that pushing through this period can result in injuries. Focus on multi-objective based training with techno-tactical base. What that means is that we need to focus on developing the whole footballer in this period. So technique, with decisions, with coordination, with tactics, with the mental, with the physical, all in the same exercise, all in the same drill, to ensure that these players come out of this growth spurt with a more complete skill set. We can't just turn around to them and say, hey, we'll do nothing, therefore we don't develop. So it's important we focus on doing more complete exercises so that we cover more bases and are more efficient with our time, because we are going to get less time because we are reducing the load. Obviously these have a techno-tactical basis, and I was working firmly more on techniques and tactics more than the physical load, again because it's a football match and football is about the ball, not about running around. And then we can monitor the internal load. We call it RPE, or rate of perceived exertion. All this is asking the player after every training, or match, how are you feeling? Rate your fatigue level out of 10. He might say 8, he might say 6. You can then monitor this. If he's constantly getting very high scores, it means he's very tired. We reduce the load. Thank you very much. That was a nice brief presentation on growth spurts. If you have any questions or queries, please leave some comments. Leave them in the comments below. We'll get them as soon as we can. And thank you very much.